Today we're going to replace the screen on a Samsung Galaxy S4, and I don't know if you can see it, but we have a few cracks in here. The LCD does not turn on at all, and we've got our pre-assembled replacement unit which comes with the mid frame. I recommend you do it this way. We're going to transfer over some of the components from the inside, but all in all this is a relatively easy repair to perform. Again, if you buy it with the mid frame, if you want to buy just the glass by itself you can, but it's going to be a lot more work. And if you spend just an extra 15-20 bucks, you can get the whole thing already pre-assembled, and it'll just save you a lot of time and effort. So we'll take the back cover off of the phone, remove the battery, and of course if you have a micro SIM or an SD card, make sure that you remove those before you go any further. And then we're going to have a bunch of screws here that we need to take out. And for some reason, a lot of the times these screws don't like to come all the way out. Oh, and there's a seam on the side where we're going to pry the phone. These screws do like to get stuck inside the housing, so sometimes you have to kind of grab them and pull them out. You can also leave them in if you want, as long as you're sure that they're completely released, but they do have a tendency to go flying across the room when you pull on them, as does one of the inner clips on the phone that you'll see later here. So make sure you keep track of these, and obviously make sure that you count them, and we know that they have all been removed before you go any further. And you'll see here shortly I'm going to actually use a pair of tweezers and just kind of demonstrate how we can get the stubborn screws out when they don't cooperate. So you can see what I'm going to do here is just back this screw out, and when I know that it's unthreaded all the way, if you go in underneath the screw with the tweezers, you can actually kind of hold on to it while you're twisting and then just lift it out. So if you find that helpful, it is nice to have a pair of tweezers on hand, especially for this repair, because there are a few things that we're going to have to grab on the inside of the phone. And once we get all of the screws out, there is an area down here that you can kind of gently pry underneath to pop off the cover for the charging port, flex cable, and everything else that goes along with that right inside here. And you'll see there's a little metal clip there that covers the charging port, and actually I think it fell out as I was transitioning there. But we have a series of flex cables and one screw in the upper right hand side of the logic board as you're looking at it right now that's going to have to come out, and we will transfer that all over. We'll go ahead and disconnect the antenna wire at the bottom, and I'm going to leave it connected on the top because you don't have to unplug it from both sides. And then we have two different flex cables, one that goes over the other. We have the main flex up here for on the opposing side for the LCD, but this long one here actually has another one attached to it, which should come with the replacement unit that you buy, so you don't have to worry about salvaging that smaller one. But the long one that goes up the side there, you will have to keep. So what we're going to do is heat up this bottom half right here. There's some adhesive underneath, and we're going to very carefully go underneath that, and you'll see probably shortly here that little silver bracket will probably fall off of the charging port. And you want to be real careful. We don't want to rip this, so I'm just gently going underneath here with a soft pry tool, and it will get bent in the process, but fortunately we can bend this back into shape before we reinstall it. This side is a little trickier to get under, so just be really careful. You don't want to slip and scrape anything down there, or else you will be buying a new charging port flex. Fortunately, this one is modular though, so you can also perform a charging port replacement relatively easy on this phone. And you'll see here, I'm just kind of straightening that out a little bit. And I'm going to go back and say, yes, actually my middle bracket did fall off. It's a little hard to see this on the monitor, so there's a replacement adhesive in the new piece. Just peel off the tape, and we can go ahead and stick this inside. And then make sure this part goes over that longer flex cable, because that's going to plug in right there. And just kind of seat that against the adhesive on the inside. And then we'll go ahead and start disconnecting the rest of these flex cables. And we've got one screw right here that we need to take out that does hold the logic board in place. And just kind of pull that antenna wire out through the channel where it's routed. And once everything's disconnected here, it looks like I missed one flex cable. You need to make sure you got everything detached. And then you can go ahead and just lift the entire logic board out of the old assembly. And then we have a few pieces that need to transfer over here at the top. And that's going to include the headset jack, the earpiece, the front-facing camera, and so on, which you will see. And you will have to apply a little bit of heat here at the top. These do have adhesive underneath them. And I like to transfer things over as soon as possible. That way we make sure we don't get anything mixed up or lose any parts. So I'll go ahead and transfer this over and put the screw back in. And you just want to very carefully go under this speaker. I'll occasionally use an ice pick to kind of just pry this part here where they put a bunch of glue underneath. Just make sure you don't puncture anything or tear any cables. And you'll see that's the metal clip that just went flying off as I pried it out. So keep track of that. They tend to go across the room if you're not careful. And we can move that right over. And then of course we have our front-facing camera. Be real careful when you're going underneath this. It does have a lot of adhesive, and you want to make sure that you don't end up tearing that cable. And that will just kind of clip into place. And now we can make sure everything's out of the way, no cables are getting pinched, and go ahead and put the logic board into the new assembly. Now I would recommend you put the screw in first and then start attaching all of your flex cables. And of course, before we complete our assembly, we want to do a test run and make sure the new screen is working okay. So at this point, you can actually put the battery inside, power up the phone. If you wanted to, you could attach that cable on the bottom. Right now, I'm mainly concerned with making sure that the screen lights up. And you can see there, it looks like we have a good AMOLED. I know it's a little hard to see with all the glare. And once we're confident that everything is working properly, we will go ahead and continue putting everything back together. And these antenna cables can be tricky. So once we get that back in place, this is the little metal bracket that I was talking about that kind of fell out as I was taking the phone apart. And we can go ahead and put the rear panel on, put all the screws in, and make sure that we put that bottom piece on. And this, you just kind of go around the edges and just keep putting pressure on it. You'll see that it actually snaps into place until everything's nice and flush. If on the top or the bottom you see that right in the center it doesn't seem to be going on properly, you can actually push inward kind of towards the body of the phone, and that will generally make it clip back into place properly. So just make sure you inspect the perimeter and everything is nice and level. And then, of course, if you put a little heat on this label on the back, you should be able to get underneath it with something without tearing it and transfer it over to the new assembly. And that is just about it. I'm going to put the battery in here and fire up our new screen. This is the easy way to do the repair. If you guys found this helpful, please hit the like button. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my channel, tell your friends, share the video, and thanks for watching.